Now let's discuss more of those social relationships in later life. So let's talk about social bonds and socio-emotional selectivity. So later life friendship patterns resemble those of young adulthood, including online friendships. But one difference we see is that older adults report having fewer relationships and developing fewer new ones. And one theory that explains this is socio-emotional selectivity theory. And this theory says that friendships form based on certain goals. These goals include things like information seeking, self-concept, and emotional regulation. So this process, termed socio-emotional selectivity, implies that social contact is motivated by one of these goals. So which goal do you guys think would be the biggest motivator to later life relationships? What we see is it's emotional regulation. That's what's most important to individuals in later life. They want to feel good. They want to feel positively. So the idea here is that older adults then, they're choosing social networks very carefully and very selectively. So older adults are aware that time is running out, essentially, and so they're turning to close friends and family members. They're also better at knowing which social interactions are good for them and which ones make them sad or stressed out. So in general, research suggests that the quality of the relationships you have are more important for developing well rather than the number or quantity of relationships that you have. So the suggestion that the quality of the support network is more salient than the quantity of the support network really fits with this socio-emotional selectivity theory. So this is a leading theory of social and emotional development. And according to this theory, older adults then, they're paring down their social interactions. They're increasing the number of exchanges that they have with people who they're already very close to and feel affectionately toward. So all of their connections are meaningful. So the social networks of older individuals include people freely and carefully chosen who serve as supportive friends more so than the social networks of younger individuals. And this can promote better emotional regulation. So because older adults cannot feasibly maintain as large of a social network as younger adults, the social networks that they do decide to maintain further illustrate this idea of selective optimization and compensation, if you guys remember that. So as individuals age, they optimally adapt to their changing circumstances in a way that promotes optimal emotional regulation functioning. So what are they trying to optimize? Well, they're trying to optimize emotional regulation. They're compensating for a shift in goals, for this loss of friends, maybe through death that they've already experienced. And so they're selecting really the people who they are best friends with, who they really want around them. So widowhood can be a very stressful time for older adults. But we see that 1/3 of older adults are widowed. Most live alone, but they cope with the loneliness pretty well. We see that reorganizing life tends to be harder for men. They're more likely than women to remarry. They have more physical and mental health problems. Part of the speculation on this is because men may have relied on their wives for that social connectedness. And so if they lose their wife, it can be very difficult for them to have those social connections. So widowed individuals do have to reorganize their lives. They have to form an identity that is separate from the deceased spouse. So I want to talk about one study in particular that's interesting. This is the Notre Dame Widowhood Study. And this study is trying to capture change. So it's very much developmentally based. Capture change as it occurs during a transition period. So in this case, the researchers had 98 days of daily data that were captured after the loss of a spouse. And they modeled the data to illustrate how widows re-regulate their emotions following loss of a spouse. So what they used was this analysis called dynamic systems analysis. And this reveals a significant frequency, damping, and trend parameter. So here you can see the frequency parameter here is going to be B right here. So how quickly you're going back and forth between positive and negative affect. The damping parameter is going to be A. So that's like the variability in how long it takes people to return to baseline, to return to equilibrium. And then trend is going to just kind of be like, are we trending down? Are we trending up? Is there improvement in affect over time or not? So the damping parameter, so that would be A, this damping parameter, is this idea that this kind of shows stress recovery. Basically, it's showing how quickly individuals can return back to equilibrium. So that's what the researchers did for this study. And what they found was that perceptions of your control over social relationships, as well as emotion-focused components of social coping, predicted the overall trend, and problem-focused coping predicted that damping parameter. So we see that these social relationships are particularly important when it comes to stress recovery, especially stress recovery from becoming widowed. And then these problem-focused coping, so just coping well with stress, is also important when it comes to this stress recovery.